Hello everybody and welcome to this video and probably to this channel since this is my first video, technically the second, but the first one got taken down due to the issues with editing. This is a remake of this video and there is not much to say. I will say thanks to Flag Zombie for making this tier list, for making this possible, and for making his excellent series, which if you haven't, you should totally watch. Yes, so as you may see, if you have seen his videos, you can see that I've added two tiers, which first one is E, because I split F into F and E, because F has a lot of zombies, and E is just slightly better, because F now is just the worst of the worst, never use these, you will never get use out of these. E is there is at least something, a sprinkle of something that's maybe useful sometimes. And here is the unknown tier because I do not have opinions on some of these, and there are some that I do have opinions on, but I've only seen them once or twice and I have not used them, so I will put these into the unknown, even if I think that they are on a certain tier. For the sake of being fair, I'll put them here. Now, as a, and here is S tier, which to explain, I will be putting things that, for example, you always run, which for that one we have Torchmonk, get over here, uh, who is the thing you always run. Undeniably, he is probably the most must-have thing in the game. Uh, Maybe he is not the strongest in the game, but you always run him. Unless you are very experimental, you always have this guy. And the second kind of zombie that goes into S tier is things that require an extremely specific hard counter, or like things that just win you the game for free if they don't have some sort of counter. For example, good old Bandit, who is an absolute pain to deal with unless you have, for example, Explodonaut to deal with him. If you do not, he basically just kills you for free. The enemy just spams him, and there's nothing you can do more often than not, and he just wins. Yes, that's why he's going directly into S tier. He can be very bad. I mean, if your enemy has uh, Explodonaut, he goes maybe E tier because you can get some free hits if they don't realize you spawned him, but like if they have a counter, he is bad. But if they don't, he's a free win. That's why he goes into S tier. Now, as an example of F tier, I will be putting a zombie that I have very huge amount of opinions on, which I have really tried to make the zombie work. Maybe there is something I'm missing. Maybe she deserves E tier, but she is probably in top 3 of the worst zombies in the game mode at the moment. Yes, even above Shell, which is a spoiler, who is also going into F tier, just another spoiler. She dies to everything. She cannot even pretend to be tanky. She is late game. She replaces Glider, which is one of the most impactful zombies in the game mode, and she dies. Okay, I will specify it. I will say levels, and I will say seat levels for things that you upgrade outside of the game mode, that like outside of the game, outside of the rounds. You can upgrade things with seat packets, and it increases their stats. And legendaries get a lot out of these because of how rare they are. And and then there is the in-round level, which I will mention here. Uh, she, at round level 7, with all 3 buffs, which, in case you don't know, there are 3 buffs that you can give to zombies. One is speed, one is health, and one is immunity to things like slowdowns and stuns, just effects like these. With all 3 buffs at in round level 7, she dies to 2 level 5 monkey fruits in less than 4 titles. That's ridiculously weak. She cannot even pretend to be tanky if she is at low seed level. Since she's a legendary, she becomes way stronger if you have her at a higher level, but It takes months, if not years. I have been playing for months and I only have two copies of a single legendary, which is Scorpion, which we'll get to later. So, and you need at least five. Like, you need one to unlock and then five more to upgrade to level two. So, like, it's unlikely you'll meet her at a higher level, unless your enemy is paid to win and just spent like a lot of money to buy legendaries, because yes, you can buy legendary chests that always have a legendary. And yeah, she is the best example of what I call the Scorpion issue, which does not apply to the Scorpion, and ironically enough, that's just the name. Where if you can win with her, there's a 90% chance. Well, not even 90%. With her, it's a 100% chance. You can just win by spamming basically anything else that's viable, that's not in these three tiers. She is horrible. She's also a legendary, so if this is your only legendary, I feel sorry for you. She is the second one I got. She is horrible. You might think that she is good with breakdancer. She is not. She has nothing going on for her. She should have like at least 50% more HP than she has, but she doesn't. And so she is an F tier and an undeniable one for me. Her only good thing is that she insta kills pumpkins and ants and things like this. Since pumpkins are in top four of the strongest plants, the top three of the strongest vines in this game mode, she that's a use, but she'll never touch a pumpkin realistically unless she's level 10. And by that point, you can probably win by just spamming bucket hits with how strong level 10 zombies are, which is only somewhat of a joke. No, okay, not really. She at least has speed over him. Either way, she is horrible, and no matter the level, if you have a good seat packet level, which I don't think you would unless you're paying, but if you have a good seat packet level on her, she could be A tier. Like she could have like almost 50% more HP than she does. No, almost double HP at max level. But you are realistically gonna take like 2 years to get her to level 2. So yeah, she is staying comfortably into here. I will only say the leveling if it matters a lot, but usually it's not that big of a deal. And yeah, those are two examples. Now I'll get into the tier list in the order. And this guy goes directly into S tier. Now, you might think, why? He seems pretty easy to counter. Just bring Chestnut. There are two reasons. First of all, if you do not have a reliable counter against him, he can absolutely just steamroll you and instantly destroy you. Like, he is a unit if you do not have a strong, reliable thing against him. You need some sort of thing to stop him, because if you don't, then he's just gonna run you over and it's done. If you do not have a counter, he is probably one of the strongest zombies in the game mode. That's why you need a counter for him. And he's considerably more common than Bandit. That's why you bringing Chestnut is probably smarter than bringing Explodonaut. Some people bring both. I don't bring Explodonaut, because luckily Bandit is not that common. Chestnut is basically mandatory. Maybe you can replace him with with nut, with the gum nut. It's not that reliable, but if you can make it work, then yeah, it's a good enough counter. Either way, if you do not have a counter, this is probably the strongest zombie in the game mode, with him just running you over instantly, unless you have either a counter or something that just instantly kills him, like P Vine plus Primal P. Sure. Now let's go to zombies, which I will put in C. This guy is close to the unknown tier, but I have seen him at least a handful of times. He is decent. He can run over slow or weak strategies. He can be decent. He certainly has his uses, but the fact that he takes the turn free slot is a huge drawback. He sadly does not get that that much value, like to justify him. He he can work, but you should really use something else. But the fact that he can work is enough to bring him into C tier. Like he can be decent. And now the thing I did slight clickbait on is basic zombie. Now you might be thinking, how is he not an F tier? I mean, he is the worst. Not really. Here's the thing: leveling seed packets levels. He has HP increase, and you might be thinking, well, what does that mean? With every level, he gains basically 10% more HP, with Max having double his normal HP. That's 550 HP. That's a lot. He only costs 5 suns, so that's 108 HP for every sun you spend, basically. And that's a lot. That's the most HP effective zombie. And that at max level, he can be even B tier depending on the strategies you're facing. If you're facing things that are single target that don't deal splash, he can be B tier by just spamming him because of how high his HP is. He could probably counter Goopy reliably while also being just a thing you spam. He could sometimes even replace Chicken, because Chicken's main use late game is either, well, he won't be fast enough to get damage, but he'll at least be able to cycle, where you just place a five cost twice, just so you could spam more zombies into a single lane. That's at least a use that's very specific to very cheap zombies. He has potential to be B tier at max level, but the fact that he sucks so much at lower levels holds him back severely. And the fact that Cold Snap, even at max level, just murders him for free. He has potential to be B tier against specific strategies at a very high level, but overall he's E tier. There's an argument for more like C tier, but at max level, he really does get a lot of value. But overall, considering more levels than just max, he is not that great. Now we get to something that is pretty great, which is Buckethead, who goes directly into B tier because he is and I mean good early tank. He is the thing that you spam for wizards because he becomes cheaper with seed packet costs, and that's huge because at max level he costs only 20, which is very cheap for how much health he has. He dies very badly to Goopy for most of the games, since he does still only have 270 against that. But if you are not going up against Goopy, then he can be very decent. He's just a reliable tank that takes the turn 1 slot, which is a slot that you don't really have a lot of competition for. And next, we are gonna go back from B tier directly into F tier because you might think, well, why isn't he D or C? I mean, he's in between the two. No, not at all. He gains damage with seed levels, which is horrible. That's the worst thing you can get from that. It's just not even arguable. It's just bad, and you should never use him. He is not nearly tanky enough nor cost effective enough to be even close to Buckethead. He doesn't even get saved by his leveling like the basic does. He is not. He has nothing going on for him. Even if his seed leveling was better, even if he got like 15 DPS per level, that would not save him because he dies just as fast. Too he just dies way too fast. He doesn't get the he doesn't get the health efficiency of the basic at max level. No matter the level, he's just bad, which is a shame. Now we go from F tier into S tier because Digger is probably one of the best. Yeah, no, he's just one of the best zombies in the game mode. If your enemy doesn't have vines, that is, if your enemy has pumpkin, he is kinda useless. He doesn't really do anything. But if your enemy doesn't have a reliable counter like a weirdly placed ant, he just wins. You just spam him, and then your enemy cannot do anything because their backlines are insta killed constantly. He either he wins or loses depending on if your enemy has pumpkin. Realistically, overall he is S tier, but considering like 80% of the players, I am not over exaggerating. At least 80% of the players these days use pumpkin. He could be as low as D tier, but he's not. He's S tier purely because like against anything that's not pumpkin, he is very, very, very strong. And yeah, you need a counter, but sadly the current meta it actually has a lot of these counters. But overall, he still deserves the S tier. And from S tier directly into S tier is Explodinat, who is ruins the whole turn 4 slot, which is a shame. Back in the day, the turn 4 slot was the only slot where, well, only slot if we ignore the third turn 1 slot. He the turn 4 slots just had, hey, there is no one overly good thing. You can decide to run any of these and you'll probably get some use. No, this guy, this people realize that he's overpowered and nobody uses anything else, which is a shame because so many fun zombies are turn 4 and he is probably even worse than turn 3 because I have not seen someone who doesn't use him in such a long time, which also makes Chestnut Squad so much worse. And by that it also buffs All Stars, funnily enough, except not because All Stars also suffers against Pumpkin. Yeah, Pumpkin very much just does good against some of these, but this guy does well against Pumpkin. So yeah, he does good against almost everything. He's just very strong. He's not that expensive, and for just 80 something sun, you can have something that can take out like potentially even 800 sun worth of plants early on if they have level 3 pumpkin, which is very strong. And yeah, if they have level 3 pumpkins. Leveling isn't that important. Seed leveling, because he only loses costs, uh, which, while the third best thing, it's certainly thousands of times better than damage. It's not that notable. So yeah, let's carry on and let's get to normal Explorer Zombie, who, if Torchmonk wasn't here, he would probably be an A or S because he always run him no matter what. But he is completely replaced by Torchmonk. You should always use Torchmonk unless you have Torchmonk at like level 1 and this guy at like a very high level, because they both gain HP per level, which by the way makes it so at max level this guy also hard counters Goopy because you can just spam like 2 lines of them uh, with the 2 buffs at turn 3 and Goopy does nothing, it just dies. Doesn't matter. This guy is strong, but he has no use. If we just think when compared to good old Torchmonk, he just becomes F because why would you ever use him? Torchmonk has more HP, only costs 5 more, which makes no difference. This guy costs 55, this guy costs 60. And this guy has a bigger hitbox, which means that with a speed bonus, he is actually able to kill a hot date that's in between two cold snaps. This is not reliable, but he can do that if they do their idle animation at a specific moment if he has the speed buff, which pretty funny that the explorer section is more about the torch one, but that's all that's just not something explorer can do. Explorer is just so much worse, and that's kind of sad because if Torchmonk wasn't here, he would be S tier. But when considering that Torchmonk exists, I need to put him in B because putting him anywhere higher feels wrong because of this guy, which is a shame. Now, here is the original Gargantuar, and this one is very much arguable. He is S tier material, but he is outclassed very much. I feel like putting him in S tier is fitting, but I'll put him in very, very, very high A purely because one thing fully outclasses him like in 90% of scenarios. Technically speaking, he may be stronger than that thing, but I'll explain once we get to him. And now, well, there is a lot of S tier zombies at first. Now we get to the Gatling P zombie, who gains damage on level up. That's on seed level up, which is pretty huge at first because once you upgrade him 4 times, he actually is able to free shot plants at level 3 instead of four shotting them, which is pretty damn huge. Other than that, the leveling is not that important on him. What is important is you need a good counter against him, and I mean like ant or pumpkin late game, or else he just kills you. Even level 3 exponent, it saves you mid game, but late game is also gonna die instantly because round levels buff him heavily. At level 8, which is very, very, very late game, this guy just instantly destroys the level 8 exploding nuts, and as if you use your level 5 slots for monkey fruit and aloe, then yeah, this guy just annihilates you for free. I'm sorry if I'm coughing. I'm kind of sick currently. And from S tier, we have so many S tiers here. That's pretty funny. Uh, yeah, the lighter. He is the most reliable zombie in the game mode, right next to this guy and this guy. Except he is probably even more so. He's the reliable win condition. He's the thing that you can rely on. He doesn't have any actual counters that people run. Technically speaking, you can argue that there is someone out there who runs level 1 vanilla, which technically instantly makes him crash, which is a counter. And that is, in fact, a counter that exists, but no one in their right mind would do that. So this guy has good speed. Well, yeah, he gains speed on seed level up, which is the best thing in the game. Hands down, no one else gains speed, which is surprising. Uh, Now, I'll mention as to who should get speed later. But yeah, this guy just he is the most reliable zombie. He doesn't have any sort of true hard counters. He's reliable. You should realistically use him. He heavily outclasses most things. If not, I think maybe all things. No, almost all things in his slot. There's only one very notable thing which will also be coming into S tier, which is subtle foreshadowing. Pretty funny how the same tier has the S tier and the F tier zombie. I feel so bad for Glitter. I wish she was good. I tried so hard and for so long to use her. To the point where I don't even remember using Glider anymore. I just kept using her and another legendary from that slot. And it doesn't work. It just doesn't. And now we get into Gark, but better. And yes, this is probably the most arguable thing. I should put both of them into S tier, but purely because he is just outclassed. It's not as bad as with this guy, but he is slightly faster. He has an imp. Those are both good things, and he is cheaper. But this guy isn't that threatening. He is still a gargantuar, but his HP is not that high when if you just use just this guy is so much more threatening. This guy simply has so much more because of his double HP. It doesn't matter if this guy is faster. He dies very quickly while this guy can walk almost double the distance. Well, yeah, since he has double HP. And combos that work well with Garks work way better with this guy too. So really, they should both be in S tier, but purely because this guy is arguably just worse, I will put him in A tier. You can around him, you can get almost the same effect out of both of these, but this guy is just not as intimidating in any extent. Also, this guy can insta kill all chestnuts, while this guy needs to do one smash for every chestnut piece alive, which is a pretty notable thing, if not for the fact that Explode Nut exists. Uh, Next we go into Weasel, and I'll instantly also bring Chicken here, and both of them go into. This is interesting. They both go into A tier because they are basically S tier because you always, and I mean always, run one of these. It's not an argument. You always do, but they are just considerably more fair than Torchmark. That's that's the thing. They are very, very, very fair in comparison. They're annoying, sure. You need things to counter them early on, but they are not Torchmark, which is what keeps them out of S tier. You can live without them. It's annoying late game because you cannot cycle lanes, and sure, you may miss out on a few hits, but they are not gonna be as game defining as this guy. Just that's a very important thing. I am conflicted, just like with this guy, just like with Balloon Guy, if I should put him into C or unknown because I have not seen him that much, but I've seen him enough. He also gains, well, loses cost on seed level up, and yeah, just like Bucket Boy, but Bucket Boy has is just a more reliable tank. That's basically it. Newspaper is also a good tank. Newspaper is also reliable, but just not to the same tier as Bucket Boy, which is a shame. Yeah, sorry if I'm speeding through some of these. I tried to explain, but I don't really have a lot of words for them. This guy goes into D tier, which he can sit in here comfortably. He is, by all accounts, just a worse wizard, considerably worse wizard. But if you don't want to use glider for some reason, and if you prefer to run something over wizard, then yeah, this guy can work. This guy can work fairly decently. Maybe even C tier, but I feel like C tier is just very generous because he is not that reliable, especially considering his slot. He takes the same slot as Glider and another zombie I will mention later, which just makes him not that decent. Should I say not to use him? No, no, you can totally use him. He can totally be used and you can totally get a value out of him, but he is not good enough to be anywhere higher. And from D to B, we go with Shield Zombie, which is basically Bucket Boy except for turn 4. If Explodonut wasn't a okay, if we consider Explodonut, he goes directly to D tier because Explodonut is just better almost always. Well, not almost always because this guy discounts poison, but most people run more than just Goopy for their turn 3. So yeah, if you have any sort of splash or yeah, just any sort of splash or constant fast attacks, just instantly kill him and make him unable to do anything. Yeah, he's just fairly easy to counter, but he's if he there is no reliable counter against him, he's a very reliable tank. He is less reliable. Okay, overall, he is less reliable than Bucket Boy, and he takes a more important slot. But when he works, he's considerably better than Bucket Boy at tanking. That's enough. That's He also does gain HP, but with him it's not that notable. On level up, well, maybe it is. Gains 25 HP with each level up. That could be decent. And we go into Wizard, which obviously goes into the nope. I will put him into very high A. He has potential to be S tier. If people use him properly, he is certainly S tier. But this is from my own experience. And I don't really use him, so it doesn't my opinion here doesn't matter. But people are so horrible when using him. They just suck. I'm sorry for insulting them, but people just spam wizards blindly. They just place 3 cards and then they just spam wizards without even realizing that A, their guards died instantly, and now they're just spamming wizards which die instantly, doing nothing. If we just consider these players, then it goes into F tier because it does nothing, it just dies for free. When you're fighting against a good opponent, he goes into S tier, but 9 out of 10 times the enemies using wizards suck. And that's kind of sad, but honestly, that's preferable over just me dying very easily. He is very easy S tier, if not for the fact that people using him tend to be bad. Not really tend to be, but people just don't know how to use him. If someone does, then he's S tier, but overall, I'll put him into A. And here is this guy, which Scorpion. You might remember the thing I called Scorpion issue. It doesn't apply to Scorpion. I used to believe that this was one of those things where if you if you win with this, you would win by spamming basically anything else. Not really. He counters a lot of strats that other things suffer into. He's reliable. He's worth it. He also loses 25 cost on each seed level up, which is extremely huge. At max level, he goes from 300 to 200, which is basically going from the cost of this guy into the cost of this guy, which is pretty funny. Just all of the legendaries get something huge with their cost. Either way, he is just reliable. He's good, and I. And if you don't have any notable synergy with Gargantuars, then yeah, just use Glider and this guy. Really, if you have him and don't have any synergy with Gargs. Now, moving right along into Mr. C tier, I wanted Bull to be B, but he sadly it doesn't quite make it. He is not that threatening, even with the bug of using all three buffs on him. If you use all three buffs on him, he actually keeps the same speed. Uh, After he launches the imp, he still is very fast if he has all three buffs. They haven't fixed that for some reason. I want him to be B tier, but really, it only is notable if you're already losing. If you're winning, no, if you're staying alive, then Bull is not threatening. If you have good enough defenses, he is probably a case of a Scorpion issue, but it's not that bad, luckily. He is usable. You can get decent use out of him, just like Balloon Guy, and he does take an but he suffers from, first of all, not being that threatening and taking the same slot it's slowed, and that just sucks, which makes him so much worse. Now we go into Mr. Block. Block Guy. He's just here's the I'll even put him in D because by all accounts he's a worst bucket hit. He also gains, I think, damage when you upgrade him, which is the worst thing to get. But if you have both of them at level 1, you might as well just consider them side grades. Like, why not? Well, why not use this guy? I'm not gonna hate on you for using him. He is usable and he's decent enough. You can use him. You can get decent use out of him, just like Bucket Boy at lower levels. Once we get to higher seed buckets levels, then yeah, Bucket Boy is just considerably better because cost matters a lot. This guy is almost always worse, but at first he's at least only slightly worse. Now moving right along to someone I'm sad about. I will put him in D tier. He probably goes further. He probably goes into E. He is the original uh, earlier synergy with healer. That sure is a notable thing. Except it's not. His ability of being immune to knockback is not notable at all because only like I have only seen someone use a knockback plant as their level 3 actually once, and later on in the game you can just use the debuff immunity, and it just completely replaces him. He is tanky and he has no armor, which makes him good with healer, but even then he is not that good. You can just spam other things, and you can probably get the same effect. Now we go into this guy, who goes comfortably into F tier. He is still better than Glitter though. I. he at least has some HP. He has almost nothing going on from him, but he can at least pretend to be tanky. Glitter has the upside of being very strong when leveled up, but if we consider them at both at lower level or really just him at any level and Glitter at one because she's a legendary, he is better. At higher level, Glitter is a good zombie, probably. I have never seen her at higher level, that's why she would go to unknown. But yeah, if we consider her at level 1 and this guy at any level, this guy can at least pretend to be tanky. He can at least do something. You should never use him, that's why he is in the E tier. But he can at least do something sometimes. Glitter, it's just sad. If you can win with Glitter, or well, this kind of applies to this guy too, then you can win with probably anything else that's even semi-viable. Unless you're spamming early game stuff, obviously. And this guy goes directly into the unknown because I have not seen anyone use him against me. He's very strat dependent. He works very well against some strats, but if your enemy has, for example, monkey fruits, which almost everyone does, he dies very quickly because monkey fruits just ignore the shovel and insta kill him. Against those, he's very bad, but on rare occasions, he is a free win. But I have not faced him and I do not own him, so I cannot actually say how viable he is. Now going and now to Snoopy. I will not stop you from using him. I will not stop you from using any of these. Maybe you find Shell Zombie to be funny. I personally still use Glitter because she's a legendary and I feel like it's a waste if I don't use her. If you want funny, then this guy can be high tier, but like if you want to be competitive, just use Gatling P. This guy may be way cheaper, but he does so little damage in comparison. Really, there is no reason why you should use this guy over Gatling P. But he has something. If we ignore Gatling P, he could be decent, but Gatling P's mere existence makes him useless. Well, almost useless. If we ignore Gatling P, then yeah, he could be decent, but due to Gatling P's mere existence, he just dies. Although him getting HP on seed level upgrade is decent, I guess. Now we go into Surfboard, who is sort a considerably worse shield, but still a viable enough tank. His surfboard does make a difference. He doesn't die quite as bad to splash. You can get use out of him. He can help protect your wizards pretty well, but he's not quite good enough to be B tier. But you can get use out of him. Certainly more than Bull. I am not gonna move Bull down, but he is certainly better than Bull. Maybe they both should go to D tier, but you can get use out of them. Now we go into D, and I'll instantly also bring out this guy, and I'll put this guy into B. This guy is probably C tier, but goes down into D because there's a literal straight upgrade to him in the game mode. This guy is always better. He costs 40. This guy costs 50. This guy has more HP. This guy has less HP. They are both the same speed, and there is never a reason to use this guy. Literally, there is just nothing. This guy has every stat lower than this guy, and it's pretty funny. There is no cost. This guy is, despite of the fact that the bug zombie is stronger in stat wise, this guy still is less expensive for some reason. He costs 40. This guy costs 50. It's just stupid. Yeah, this guy. Okay, going into bug zombie. If your enemy is slow, then yeah, you can get a free hits, and but you're not gonna win unless they are very stubborn about not defending themselves. But but really, if they spam properly, if they just get enough defense early on, then this guy doesn't do a lot. Both of them die very heavily to Goopy, despite of the fact that they literally cannot be one-shotted by it. Either way, they just dive pretty heavily, but you can get use out of both of them if your enemy isn't that good at defending. Now to go into E tier, we have Dodo, who may scratch it by to D tier if may. He has potential. He has decent stats and he's immune to freezing, which only matters against level 3 Cold Snap, which is not common, but it does happen very early. He has decent enough stats, but his cost is what holds him back from being any higher on the tier list, really. There is not much to say. Also, he does nothing against sliders, despite of what you might believe, because sliders, for some reason, they didn't make him skipping sliders things work. And now we go into Jalapeno, which is either D tier, hell, even F against certain opponents, or S tier. I will put him in A tier because he deserves it overall. If your enemy is bad and they just set up uh, chestnut right next to the start, then you can take out all three of their lanes for absolutely free. Just well, not free, but like no issue. Just take out their lanes, and then you almost always just win very easily. But if your enemy is good and they set at the back and you do not have breakdancer to break through, or this guy, then yeah, uh, it just doesn't do a lot if your enemy is good and you don't have these synergies. But the mere fact that he can just win you the game for free just sometimes just it's just good. It's what keeps him so high. If all of the enemies were good and you didn't have the synergies, then yeah, he would go directly into F tier. He is expensive, slow, has low HP, nothing going on for him. But the fact that his ability going up once can be so game changing keeps him high. There's an argument for B tier. I'll keep it an A purely because of his potential. This guy goes into unknown. I only faced him once, and that was against an enemy who was spamming him into one lane, and that lane, well, that sounds like a good strat until you think about the fact that I had like 6 cold snaps in the lanes, in the other lanes, because he was spamming bags and I had hot date earlier. So all of them just died for free. He lost like 2000 sun mid game, and then he just instant surrendered because he had no sun to defend himself as soon as I actually placed things. Going off of that game, he's F tier, but realistically, he's just S tier very hard. But yeah, I cannot put him anywhere because I only faced him once. For all I know, he could be bad. For all I know, Flag Zombie may be lying in his videos that this is a joke. I know he's saying the truth, but for all I know, he could be worse than he seems. Yeah, this one is sad. The funny thing is, he costs 10 times. I'm not sure 10 times, but I'm fairly certain he costs 50. He costs 10 times more than basic zombie, and at max level, this guy only gains eating speed, which is horrible. This guy has only 60 HP less than the drinking than the no, the drinking zombie, not the drinking monk. Drinking monk would be better, but he's not in the game mode. The drinking zombie just has nothing. Just he is not that good of a tank. The fact that he stops to drink is actually pretty bad because he just dies before he finishes it, almost always. And he's just so not cost effective. If you have just if you unironically use drinking zombie, you might as well just use a and if you have a high level basic, just use high level basic because he's just as tanky and 10 times less expensive. I would much rather have something that costs 10 times less than something that has 11% more HP. And this guy goes toward the unknown because I have not seen anyone use him, which is pretty sad because why would you ever use him over Explodonaut? He probably is like D tier, but we may never know. And now, to healer, he goes directly into S tier. You might think, oh well, Why did you put Wizard in A tier when he's better than Healer? No, he's not. Healer is probably the thing I died the most to, like the most reliably to. Like if an enemy is using Healer, then 99% of the time they are actually very good at the game and they know what they are doing. Basically, the Wizard issue of players being bad is not here. Because worst players, even if they have Healer, they instantly go to Wizard because, hey, Wizard is more reliable. I mean, Healer is only B tier or A tier. No, not really. This guy is just so good at locking down one lane and making that lane unrecoverable. He is very good and very reliable, and I cannot understand how he is just A tier and Flag Zombie's tier list, despite of the fact that Flag Zombie, in his own videos, shows how reliably powerful he is. Moving right along, this guy goes into the unknown because he was good when I first started, when I was still bad, but then this guy happened, and now nobody uses him, which is sad. So yeah, not much of an opinion here, sadly. Moving right along into this guy who goes into C tier. If you don't agree, fight me. Now, he may seem very bad. He costs 80, which is ridiculously high. But he is probably the counter to Cold Snap at level 1. If they're using Cold Snap plus Hot Date, then this guy for 80 almost always, if you unless you time him poorly, he almost always just kills the Cold Snap. Just for 80, he kills their 250 cost plant. And then you might think, well, what if they just place a Hot Date in front so that it survives? Well, then place a Torch Monk to insta-kill the Hot Date, and then yeah, 60 or 120 for their 200 cost plant. That's a good deal. Well, what if they place a Cold Snap to counter the, just place another Ninja Imp. It really is as simple as that. Just these two very, very hard counter that strat. Are they going to win the game? Probably not, but the amount of sun your enemy is going to spend defending themselves from these two, who are so cost effective, is very, very high. Even against sliders, by the way. This guy will always throw his second fish to kill the Snapdragon, Cold Snap, before moving down. And at in round level 3, he does one shot level 1 plants, which is huge. Yeah, he is just actually strong, and I will not tolerate slander against him. He might as well use him due to his synergy with this. He may die very hard to Goopy and to walls overall, but specifically against a strategy I see like 30, maybe 40% of the time, which is called Snapless Hot Date. He and Torch Monk wreck that strat. Even if they don't win, they make them waste so much more sun defending. And from C to E, we have this guy, the Chief Icewind. Yep. And he doesn't have a lot going for him. He may be F. I'll put him slightly above because if your enemy is not running Monkey Fruit, if your enemy is not running Hot Date, and if your enemy is not running Explode Nut, he can technically freeze a single lane. By the way, Monkey Fruit can actually free himself more often than not, which is ridiculous because if Monkey Fruit is in the middle of his attack animation, then getting frozen will actually still finish the attack instantly unfreezing him. That's stupid. If your enemy has nothing to unfreeze their plant at the back, this guy is good. This guy can very much win you the game, but he is expensive. He costs 200, which is 200 sun, which is a lot. He is very easy to kill. He is not that slow, and he takes so long to use his ability, and he uses it 3 times for it to do anything. And it's not even reliable. He has nothing actually going on for him. If you want to have fun, you can use him. But if you want to be effective, he may just go into F tier, but I'll place him here because he has at least something going on for him. Honestly, putting these three next to him feels like an insult to them because this guy just okay, okay, actually, just these two putting next these two next to the other two in E tier feels like an insult to them, which is pretty funny to say this about basic zombie who, if not for his leveling, is a universal F tier. Why would you ever do that? And yeah, moving right along, we have Hunter, who is actually unknown because I have not seen anyone use him even once. Oh, gee whiz, I wonder why. Yeah, the buff that he got, which makes him deal damage with his snowballs, is pretty decent. And he can freeze things. He is very good against people placing imp fair at their front because then you can freeze their backlines for free. And yet, by that point, he's actually very strong. But that's just not noteworthy enough. He realistically he could even go as high as C or D tier, but the mere existence of Explodonaut and other options that you have just really outweigh him. Realistically, he's E tier, but it doesn't matter. He is unknown because I have not faced him even once, and I have not used him even once. Parasol goes directly into F tier, but for the sake of being fair, I'll put her into unknown because no one has ever used her against me. But she is just F tier. She costs 70, which is ridiculously high for the fact that she's just a high stat zombie. She doesn't actually counter anything other than Sticky Mom Rice, which actually is very bad in this game mode. I don't know why people would ever use that. And then we have Sunday Edition, which goes into B tier because I mean it's just decent. It's a decent tank. It does take the turn free slot, but from the few games that I have played against it, it's just reliable. It's decent. It's decent offensive. It's decent tankiness. Not too shabby in any way. It's just good overall, which is what makes it go into B tier. Certainly more reliable than all of the C tier zombies. Certainly way better than Balloon. Now we go into F tier because even if I haven't seen this guy even once, I cannot give him the mercy that I gave to Parasol because he is the worst zombie in the game mode. Maybe I'm skipping something. Maybe there is something that I'm skipping. No, he's just the worst. Even Jester has more. He is worse than Shell. He is worse than Glitter. Same slot, but Glitter at least has technically the ability to one-shot pumpkins. She has that going for her if you time her very well against your enemy who has no defenses, which Scorpion issue, but she can do something. This guy just does nothing. The way I would buff him, which I will probably make a separate video telling about how I would buff the zombies, but the way I would buff him is just make him spawn blockheads instead of imps, and for the things he spawns in the icebox to also be have the same buffs that you give him. Either that way he could maybe be D tier or C. Well, no, probably still D tier. But yeah, with imps he just does nothing. And this guy goes into he goes into the unknown because I cannot stress enough about how many people use Explodonaut. It's kind of sad because I really wanted to see this guy. Like, I just find him to be neat. I want to see more of him, even if that kills me because I use the cold snap. It's just not good enough. I mean, it's not good enough for anyone to consider using him over Explodonaut, which is a shame. And yeah, going from unknown to something that I do know, I don't see him a lot, but I'll put him in C tier. He's not quite B tier, but he is extremely expensive, but he's actually decent with healer. Certainly above bully. He may not have this knockback immunity, which almost never comes into play unless they have level 5 primal pea shooter, which once you give him the immunity debuff, doesn't matter either way. I'm sorry, bully. His giant HP and the fact that he is the zombie that you use if you for some reason want to use Scorpion with healer. I don't know why you would, but I guess it's just decent to have something before the Gargs. It's just a decent but overly expensive tank. Maybe D is more fitting, but he is just way better than Buligi more often than not. This guy is pretty unknown. He may be turn free. I think he's turn free, but he's just not good enough when compared to Gatling or Digger. So people don't use him, which is a shame because I think he's one of the cooler zombies that I want to see more of. Yeah, I will also put Chicken Wrangler. I would like to see more of him, even if he will wreck me, but I cannot. And yeah, we have the second worst zombie in the game mode, Jester. He's better than Trogglebite. That's something I can say about him. He is worse than Shell Zombie because Shell Zombie can at least pretend to be tanky. That's something going on for it. And yeah, not much to say. He's just horrible. He is too expensive. He is not tanky. He takes the same slot as Glider, who is, as I mentioned, probably the strongest, the most reliable zombie in the game mode. Just no reason to ever use him. You might think, well, he has some potential because he counters some strat. No, the strats that he does counter are bad strategies. These days, all of the strategies that he counters are either you get him way too late for you to counter them properly, or if they are at level 5, then they are bad strats almost always. Moving right along to this guy who goes into the unknown. He is cool. He is like toy car, except yeah, I don't see him anywhere ever either, which is pretty sad. This guy I don't see him anywhere either, but he goes into F tier because out of pure spite, they have actually nerfed this guy. I cannot say this for sure. Sword Zombie, I'm like 90% sure that he used to deal 250 damage at level 1. Seed level 1. Now he deals 200 at seed level 1. Which you might be thinking, wow, why is that? He gains 5 damage per seed upgrade. So at max level, he dealt exactly 300, which was exactly enough to one-shot level 1 plants at level 1. If he was at max level seed packets wise, that could maybe put him into D tier. That's pretty decent. That's something. But they nerfed that. They realized that hey, we should not let this basic this white rarity zombie, which basic rarity zombie, be good. So they nerfed him, despite of the fact that he was F tier. Just as much of a necessary nerf as it was for Ninja Imp, but Ninja Imp recovered while this guy, I don't know why they did that. They did that silently, just like they did the silent buff for Hunter. I don't know when did they do that, but when he first released, I remember that he was 250 damage per swing. And yeah, you might think, well, that's beat. No, that's S tier. I may be somewhat of a hypocrite because this is the same thing as Wizard, because I have only faced him a handful of times. I have faced Wizard way more, and I have won reliably against him. Because people suck when using him. People don't know what they are doing. They place him at a bad time. They don't place him enough. They just hey, let's place uh free uh free cavalry units and then let's spam something else. Hey, one of the 15 cavalry I sent wait no. One cavalry connected. Time to change my strat into spamming all-stars instead. People don't realize this is not a support zombie. This is a win condition, just like all-stars. The 2 times he was used properly, he won against me very easily, in spite of the fact that I had Impair, both Impair and Chestnut, and I was spamming both of them. They still broke through. This is a lie that you can just easily spam people. No, obviously not a lie. It's a wrong opinion that you can just easily stall it by spamming plants. He is very strong if used properly, but people don't use him properly. If I was reliable, if I was consistent, I would put him into A tier because he's the same as Wizard, but he wins so reliably when people use him against me properly and don't just do stupid things. Yeah, I will put this guy into C tier. Firework Zombie, decent against Cold Snap. His firework ability can be decent, but it also can be horrible because of how much it slows him down. He just counters Cold Snap and walls fairly decently. The fact that he counters Gumnut is not that notable because I have actually never run into anyone using uh, Gumnut. I have used Gumnut, but only for like free matches because despite of Gumnut being a counter to All-Star, it also gets countered by All-Star because All-Star can actually insta-kill the Gumnut before it explodes, so it does nothing. Either way, he is mostly known as a counter to Cold Snap, and that's a decent use. His firework ability is also decent, but honestly, not much to say. He's just decent. I wouldn't quite put him into B tier because of the slot he takes being turn free slot, but he's useful. I have seen people use him at least. This guy goes into the unknown because, first of all, I have never seen him. Second of all, he's unreliable. Against some strats, he is probably decent, like B tier, maybe higher even. Against some strats, he's just, why would you ever use him? At least he's fast, but I have never seen anyone use him. Same with Gong. Gong is a funny zombie that I wish to see more of, but no one uses him because of him. I wish Explodinut was not in this game mode. Like, well, same with most of the S tier zombies, honestly. But it's just sad because Explodinut just makes nothing else get used from that slot. Uh, this guy, Busthead, is pointless, kinda. He he probably goes into E tier purely because his ability to walk for a tiny bit after death is actually pretty decent. If not for the fact that someone else also has this ability, he is semi-tanky. He can do things, but I have never seen anyone. Okay, I have seen like two people use him, and they were decent enough, but not. I have not seen him enough to actually put him into E or F. The buff he should get, which I know this is not the rebalancing video that I will probably make at some point. But the buff that I feel like he should get is if you have him equipped, then Scorpion can spawn him. That's a cool buff that's original and not just a stat increase. Stat increases could also work, doesn't matter. He goes directly into the unknown tier. Hammer Zombie, I have never seen anyone use him. I don't see why anyone would. And yeah, let's get I have no idea how to actually say that out of the way because just like with most of these, no one uses him. Ah, gee whiz, I sure wonder why. First of all, he's a legendary, so he's super rare. Second of all, Explode Nut's mere existence makes it so people don't use him probably, which is sad. Now we go into the Doctor Zombie, which is either D or E. I feel like he can work, but he's just not good enough at what he does. If his speed down lasted longer, if he threw syringes faster, if he had smart targeting, if all of these were true, he would be decent, but he is unreliable. He can't target a single chestnut piece, which is horrible. Can just the fact that he targets walls very often over actual plants ruins him. He also costs I think 55, which, while not that horrible, it's just he is too expensive for what he does. If he had one of the free buffs, at least one, he could go to D tier, maybe C tier if he had two. But no, he doesn't quite get that. The buff they should give him is the same thing they did for Hunter, which is just make him deal slight amount of damage. So if you spam a lot of him, you can get kills at the back, like a weak catapult. Interesting. Now we have Pirate Captain Zombie, which goes directly into the C tier because he kinda is the same, basically the same as this guy. Oh, I forgot the name. Firework Zombie. They come from the same plants. They may work differently, but I feel like their use cases, their reliability is basically the same. I would say both of them are decent. You can use both of them, but they are not good enough to go into B or A or S to the sub. Hey guys, subscribe, leave a like, and a comment. Just kidding. Uh, this guy goes into no, I put him into F tier once more out of spite. Until they add King, he is staying here because he's the most stupid addition to the game mode until they do that. And since the game mode has not been updated in months, I just cannot. I should put him into the unknown because no one uses him, but out of spite he goes into here. Breakdancer. If you've seen the first video, which once more this is a retake of that video, I put him into C tier, which he is undeserving of. He should be in B or A. I will put him into B because he does work sometimes. He can be decent with guards. If you can make a conga line of them, then they can actually just make a zombie go all the way from the start to the finish in a very quick succession. But he dies so badly. 350 HP for the fact that he's unexpensive. Well, maybe not expensive because the same as All Star, but he's not a cheap zombie, and he just 350 HP is ridiculous. So that's almost 1/3 of All Star. That's barely more than 1/3. Just half of Glitter, and Glitter I already said is horrible HP wise. But he can get used if you time him well. If you use him with the correct zombies, Ahem, Torchmonk, Jalapeno, Explode or not, then yeah, he can work very well, which is at least why he goes into B tier. But his low HP at seed level 1 holds him back severely from going higher. And healer just outclasses him because if you want to use guards, I feel like 98% of the time healer is gonna be more valuable than breakdancer. Even though I think breakdancer is more fun and interesting, it's just pure effectiveness wise, he is B tier. He could be A tier depending on how you play. And also he does gain 150 HP per seed packet level, which is actually the highest increase possible. I mean, every single HP increase is 150 for the legendaries, but that makes so much more. This this is not that much for Glitter, but because she only goes to 1,300 HP, which is decent amount, but this guy going into 950, that's that's 600 more HP at max level is huge for this guy. It makes him reliable, probably. Seed packets levels matter a lot for legendaries, but and it matters the most for him, but I am going with seed packet level 1 for legendaries because it will take literal years if you do not spend money on it to gain even one at level 2. So yeah, Barrel Zombie goes into F tier. He should go into the unknown, but really, I have seen him 3 times, and honestly, if you want to put him into E or D, then that's just thinking happily. He has no use in this game mode. He has nothing going on for him. He is too expensive. He takes too much an important slot. His buffs don't matter that much because they don't afford the barrel. His HP is not that. He doesn't tank. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't even spawn the imps. If he had spawned the imps, he would have a use, but he doesn't. He also still gets hit by Goopy, which makes no sense. He has nothing going on for him. Going E or D tier is just being too positive. He does not deserve these 2 tiers, which is sad because just give him the imps back, man. That's all he needs to at least be E tier because sometimes that could be decent. And yeah, let's go with one of my favorite zombies in the game mode actually. I will not be putting him in S tier, and I will not be putting him in A tier. He is very high B tier. He is well, jalapeno is pretty low A tier. He's not quite jalapeno level, but I feel like there is an argument for him to be A tier. Like he is very strong. He's just a slightly worse digger, and digger is one of the best things in the game mode. If your enemy is using level 5 primal pea shooter without P-Vine, this guy is so strong against that. Just I I know this sounds weird because well why he dies because it's not monkey fruit. Monkey fruit can kill a zombie that's behind it, which is very annoying as that makes this guy very weak against those, which is what keeps him out of A tier. If monkey fruit didn't have that, then yeah, he would go directly into A tier, but sadly that is a downside. But yeah, against plants that don't have that problem, yeah, he is very strong. Might as well use him. He may only have like half of the health of Digger. He may be stopped by Chill, but that's just nitpicking, honestly. Like him being turn one is so huge, especially since one you have one turn one slot that's free. You always have one cheap thing and Torch Monk. So the first turn one slot is free, and some go for bag, some go for bucket head. This guy is probably better. Okay, it depends on how much do you care about the tankiness of bucket head. He is certainly worse with wizard. Prospector is certainly worse with wizards, but if you are not using wizard, then yeah, go ahead, use this. Might as well. And this guy is C tier. Low C though. Maybe not low. He's certainly above D tier zombies, but he just relies on your enemy not having splash and not having good enough turn free things. He can be decent just as a wall that stays behind. Like if your enemy has no defenses, then yeah, just place 3 of these and just leave some walls for your later wizards or something. He counters Goopy too. That's pretty good. But the fact that he dies so hard to splash damage is something I cannot ignore, which keeps him from B tier. But he is certainly comparable to other zombies in C tier. His wall also he has some good synergies. He works with Prospector, he works with Digger, he works with Gatling P, he works with Pvine, he works with Doctor, because all of these guys will actually use their ability at least once before they die if there's a gravestone in front of them, which doesn't seem important, but I found this to be way more impactful than you'd think. So yeah, this is the tier list. I'm sorry if I rambled for too long. I tried to explain things as much as possible, but I did skip some things due to my having throat problems later on. So yeah, thank you for watching this video, and I do hope you stick around because I do plan to make at least some videos on this mode, and I do plan to make a how I would buff and how I would nerf certain zombies in this game mode. Ahem, I did mention some of the things I would do. So yeah, thanks for watching.